Chapter 6. Sucker. Same day, Sunday, January 6, 1935. I'm walking by the cell house now, row after row of dark barred windows, all spooky quiet. What goes on in there? I know the convicts aren't allowed to talk, but how could some 300 men not make some more sound? Just breathing makes noise, you know. In all those windows, the cons don't sit around watching us, do they? Across the road from the cell house is a fancy mansion with flower pots on the steps and curtains in the windows. The only thing missing from the house is a lawn and a tree. That's the only tip this is Alcatraz. There's nothing but cement clear up to the door. Even so, it's strange how one side of the road is so different from the other. High society on the left, grim and grisly on the right. But somehow it seems like the perfect place for Piper. I trip going up the steps and have to brush myself off and tuck my shirt in again. I comb my hair with my hand, take a deep breath, and ring the bell. The door opens a split second later, and there in the Warden's rising to fill the doorway. "Young Mr. Flanagan," he says. "Yes, sir," I say. "Just making myself a cup of tea. Care to join me?" "No, sir. Yes, sir. I want to join you, but, no, sir, I don't like tea." The Warden nods. His eyes look me up and down after a long minute, but gives up command of the entrance and motions me in. "My library is upstairs. The door's open. You go on ahead." I take an uncertain step forward and peek in the living room. The couches and chairs look perfect, like nobody's ever sat in them. It smells like ammonia, and there's opera music playing somewhere. This is not the kind of house where you can burp freely and run around in your bare feet. The Warden's library is a big dark room with heavy red drapes drawn closed and floor-to-ceiling books. The kind of official volumes with thick indexes Natalie likes. The Warden comes in after me and closes the door. He sets his teacup on the desk, settles into a huge winged desk chair, and begins to work. "Sit down, Mr. Flanagan," he says without looking up from his ledger. He sounds annoyed, like I've flunked his first test. I sit down, only my aim is a little off, and I clonk myself on the wooden arm of the chair. Ouch, sir," I say. His face gets red. His sharp eyes seem to poke into me. He leans back in the chair and opens his mouth to say something, but just as he does, something knocks on the solid oak door. "Yes," the Warden calls. The latch slides open, and there is Piper. Her hair is curled. Her dress is starched. She's wearing white short socks and shiny white shoes. "Piper, did you want to sit in?" the Warden asks, his big face shining. "Yes, sir," she smiles sweetly. "We'd be delighted, wouldn't we, Mr. Flanagan?" the Warden asks. "Yes, sir." My throat closes around the words. The Warden doesn't seem to notice, beaming as he is at her. "Piper, you feel free to chime in now." "Yes, sir," Piper smiles. She doesn't look at me. When convicts first arrive at Alcatraz, I speak with them personally, let them know what I expect. I don't usually talk to new civilians, but Piper felt I should make an exception in your case, the Warden says. "Oh, swell. I'm getting the convicted felon treatment." I try to only look at the Warden, try not to notice Piper, but that seems impossible. "Yes, sir," I say. "I don't know what you did in Santa Monica, Mr. Flanagan, but children on Alcatraz follow the rules, exactly, precisely, without exception. Isn't that right, Piper?" "Yes, sir," she says. "We're a small town here, a small town with a big jail. The track record of the convicts we have includes 79 successful escapes, 19 unsuccessful escapes, and 24 escapes that were planned but not carried out. That's before these men came to Alcatraz, of course. We've made certain there will be no escapes here. But I don't fool myself. These convicts are very best at what they do. They have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to figure out how to get out of here. These are men who have been tried and convicted of the most heinous crimes imaginable. Terrible men with nothing but time on their hands." He waits for this information to sink in. "All I can think about is how stupid this is. If the men are that dangerous, why have women and children living on this island? I know my father says this is the event of a break the Warden wants the guard corps within walking distance of the cell house. And I know that Alcatraz apartments are cheap compared to the cost of apartments in San Francisco. Still, it seems like an incredibly stupid idea to me." "Yes, sir," I say. "I have a great deal of respect for your father, and since you're Cam's boy, I bet you have a lot to offer. I'm looking forward to getting to know you, but before this can happen, we have to make sure we understand each other." "Yes, sir," I say. We have rules here, laws you must obey, or you could endanger yourself and everyone else in the island. Rule number 1, there's no contact with the convicts. You see them on work detail down at the dock. On occasion, they'll help a family move furniture or paint their quarters. He pulls open the curtains, and there is the cell house. The little hairs on my neck stand up at the sight of it so close. But his voice goes low and hard. They are accompanied by a guard at all times. You may not under any circumstance approach them or speak to them. Women are not to wear bathing suits, shorts, or any attire that is anything but completely modest. Undergarments are not to be set out with the laundry. He turns to Piper. Cover your ears, young lady. He beckons me with his finger. I walk up close and he whispers, some of these convicts have not seen a woman in 10 or 15 years. You're old enough to understand what that means, Mr. Flanagan? Yes, sir, I say, almost running back to my chair. You can never trust a con. Nobody came here for singing too loud in church. Do you know what the word conniving means? Sneaky, tricky, I say? That's right. Remember that, Mr. Flanagan. Conniving men with no sense of right and wrong. Oh, swell. Number 2, do not enter an area that is fenced off. Number 3, no visitors unless you've made your request in writing 1 week prior to visiting day. Number 4, do not speak to any outsiders about what goes on here. Don't go shooting your mouth off about Al Capone. You say his name, and hordes of reporters come crawling out of the woodwork, ready to write stories full of foolish lies, dangerous lies. Know anything about Capone, Mr. Flanagan? He's a gangster from Chicago, killed a lot of people on Valentine's Day. Al Capone was, some say is, the most powerful underworld figure in the country. Here on Alcatraz, he's a number like any other con. The point of this prison is to keep these showy criminals out of the limelight. If I find out you're running your mouth about Capone, I'll ship you back to where you came from so fast it will make your head spin. Would you please? I want to say, but then I think about my dad and how hard he's worked so we can stay here. The warden's eyes flicker. He seems to sense his words haven't had the desired effect. I know you're going to want to give that sister of yours a chance at school. Please, sir, don't bring her into this, I say, looking down at the carpet. I can feel the heat of his intense blue eyes watching me. Fair enough, he nods. Number 5, you must walk through the metal detector upon entering and leaving the island. No dogs, cats, or pets of any kind. No play guns, ropes, metal pipes, or anything that can be used as a weapon. No old hangers or nails or anything made of metal or glass goes into your trash. These convicts can fashion weapons out of anything. Yes, sir, I say, the hairs on my arms so keen I could pick up radio signals with them. Now, my daughter tells me she's introduced you to the other children. He nods to Piper. Your daughter hasn't done boo. Far as I can tell, she's a bald-faced liar, I want to yell. Is there anything I missed, sweetheart? The school projects. Oh, yes, Piper is a straight-A student, he says, pretending to whisper. Oh, Daddy, Piper blushes. Her mother and I are so proud, but sometimes keeping track of all the projects she has going is a challenge for her. Annie and Jimmy both go to St. Bridget's, so you'll be the only other Alcatraz child attending Marina School with Piper. She often needs help carrying her projects and whatnot to school. We were hoping, as a favor to us, you might be willing to help out. Emergency alert! Emergency alert! Moose Flanagan played for a sucker right before his very eyes. Yes, sir, my voice squeaks high like a rodent's. I glance sideways at Piper. The warden's smile is kind. If you have any problems at all, my door is always open. Yes, sir. That's it. Welcome to Alcatraz. You can see yourself out. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, I say. Bye, Moose. See you at school tomorrow. Piper waves like she is the sweetest girl next door. For a second, I almost believe her. That's how good she is. And then I realize she is the girl next door. The girl next door to Al Capone.